Welcome to the FITPodcast, Freedom and Truth, where truth is taught and freedom is lived. I want to thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. Thank you so much. As you can see, I still have my brother Jared here. We're still talking about the Word of God, talking about the truth of God, God's Word. And I thank you so much for joining us. So go ahead and like and share our page so that we can continue to study the Word of God with you. Share the page with your friends and family so that they can join in with us. And we're talking about the Beatitudes. Basically, I call this the attitudes of the kingdom, instructions for kingdom living. So thank you so much for joining us. And Brother Jarrett, we're talking about Matthew chapter 5. We're still in Matthew chapter 5. We're coming down to the end, towards the end of the chapter. And we're talking about going the second mile. So there's a lot of meat and potatoes in that, going the second mile. And that Jesus is telling us, challenging us to do and to be. So there's some other stuff that Jesus is talking about in it. So we're going to have a great conversation about that. And the reference scripture is Exodus 21, 22 to 25. If you're following along with us, you can refer to the book of Exodus in chapter 21, and you'll see what Jesus was referring to. And when he said these words. And we're going to start reading in verse 38 and 39. Actually, I'll read 38 and 39. And Brother Jared, you go ahead and close out 41 and 42 for me.
Okay.
And let's read. It says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, don't resist an evildoer. One, on the contrary, if anyone slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also."
Verse 40. As for the one who wants to sue you and take away your shirt, let him have your coat as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him too. Give to the one who asks you, and don't turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you.
Wow. Wow. So, Brother Jared, let's talk about this a little bit.
All right.
You know, they say eye for an eye, and we, as you can see in the book of Exodus, and specifically in chapter 21, verse 25, you can see how this eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth came about. You see how that came about. That had to do with Jesus, when Jesus was talking about that. That whole concept was about the way people were being treated, the
Right.
way they treated people and stuff like that, particularly women and stuff like that. How they were hitting women in the abdomen area to force them to have a premature baby. There was all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and that's why these laws were written that way, for, because of what that was happening. But Jesus came on the scene, and Jesus is now dealing with the heart. So give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think these verses, they point to this, you read them and it refers to some of the things we talked about before with regards to when you read the Bible. Some things should make you, they should peel, it's a peeling back the onion,
Right.
like you mentioned, some
Right.
things you read and
Yeah.
makes you think twice that,
Yeah.
why is Jesus command, or why is Jesus saying we should do this? And I think this is an example of that. And I think this idea of turning the other cheek,
Yeah.
not retaliating,
Yeah.
it's a hard concept to comprehend and to fully, grasp, because if someone does something to you, naturally you want to do something back.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, not only do I want you to not do something back, but I
Mhm.
want you to turn the other cheek. Let him get
Yeah.
another one in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's very powerful though about this
How does
idea of
that sit with you? Turn the other cheek. What how does it sit with you? Because that's pretty intense there for him to say, turn the other cheek.
it's hard because people have done things to me before, and
Yeah.
immediately I start plotting in my head, thinking about I can do this, I can do that, I can
Yeah.
trying to get back at him.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that's definitely happened before.
Yeah.
But I think this idea of there's a bigger picture here.
Right.
And I think when you retaliate, oftentimes it's easy for you to lose your witness amongst other
Right.
people.
Right.
And if I do something to
Mhm.
them, then
Mhm.
maybe they look at me a certain way and I can't win them
Mhm.
over for Christ.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think that's what Jesus is pointing us to here.
Mhm.
He's saying that, we should be, an examples
Yeah.
of him and of the body, of the body of God. And
Yeah.
by doing this, it shows we have to have humility.
Right.
We can't retaliate. And it's not
Mhm.
about letting people just walk over you or letting
Yeah.
people, abuse you, stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
If someone's saying something to you, don't just let them talk over you.
That's right.
But
That's right.
this idea of, in your heart wanting this
That's right.
vengeance or
Mhm.
retaliation against someone, I think that's what Jesus is trying to,
Yeah.
prevent us from doing.
Wow. You're right. Yes, sir. The thing that gets me here, Brother Jared, is that Jesus, he does a great job at challenging us at the heart level,
He does.
at the center of our being. Yeah, he didn't just talk, uh, he just didn't give you words to make you feel good. He give you words to make you think and ponder and reflect and meditate and understand. Like, where did he get these from? You hear he says, don't, he said, but I tell you, don't resist evildoers. Some, and naturally we want to resist evildoers, people who try to harm us, and we want to resist them. We want to push back on them. And but Jesus is saying, you know, don't make it worse.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Don't put yourself in a situation, let's say, because you think about the laws of the land, they're very particular on how you even how you treat a criminal, how you treat somebody that may break in your house. The laws are written even to protect the criminal that broke in your house.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? They say things like laws has things like if a criminal come in your house and he breaks into your house and you catch him and he sees you and he runs away, he's running away and you shoot him, there's a good chance that it's going to fall back on you.
It
You know what I'm
will.
saying? Because they saying your life is no longer in danger, no longer in a threat. But then they also wrote the law saying if he's charging you, coming towards you in a situation, and then you react based on that, then the law could basically be in your favor. So you see what I'm saying? There's some things, but Jesus directed these stuff like saying, hey, there's a way out of the situation. You can actually get out of this situation before it gets worse. You know what I'm saying? If you keep doing this, now you can have that's how wars started because the problem started small
Mhm.
and it grow because there's no resolution on a tiny level. It began to grow, it began to fester, and then more hate, more resistance, and everything come, and now you have a war that you have to fight. You know what I'm saying? You have other people who are included in the war that don't even want to be in the war. You know what I'm saying? How did you get me in here? Well, it's because some things on the micro level was ignored. You see what I'm saying? So that's what we have. And now because Jesus used the word, he said, if someone slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other cheek
Mm.
also to him. I've heard preachers play on words with this, and they said, and I have fun with it sometimes. They said, Jesus said, turn the other cheek, but he didn't say which cheek to turn, whether it was mine or his. So, you know, but it's crystal clear what
It
he was
is.
talking about. He wasn't talking about the other guy's
It
cheek.
is. Yep.
He was talking about yours.
It is.
Yours. Now, this is tough, right?
It is.
It's tough, but it's still the truth. Correct?
It is.
It's still tough, but it's still the truth. And that's why for me, in order for me to stay on the side of truth, I don't play with people on that level.
Mhm.
And I don't allow people to play with me on that level. You see what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
don't get in fights. I didn't get in a whole lot of fights. In my even as a younger, I got in a few, but not a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? But especially as an adult, I don't get in fights. I don't get in arguments with people. I don't put my hands on people. I don't let nobody put their hands on me. So but it's how I approach them. So I always
Right.
approach them from the right side. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you approach people from the wrong side, now you put yourself in some situations. Everybody ain't gonna may not obey this like you. I might be prone to obeying the word because I studied it and everything. You know what I'm saying? And you may have, but everybody may not. Even some Christians, they may not even got to this part yet.
Mm-hmm.
They might still in chapter 5, verse 5.
Yeah.
They ain't get down to
Yeah, not
40
yet.
and 40, 39, 40, and 42 yet in the Beatitudes. They ain't get to that part yet. So it depends on where you met them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to be on the safe side is how you treat people and how is really going to turn the favor on how people are going to treat you. Even when you encounter evil people, if you approach it from Jesus' point of view, you're going to get through some tough situations. What do you think?
No, I agree with that. And I think when you look at, Martin Luther King Jr., for example, and look how we revere him and respect him. And
Yeah,
the protests he led, they were getting water
right.
hose and dogs were coming out. And the
Yeah,
fact that they didn't retaliate,
yeah,
that it makes them look, or people look at them, revere them, or respect them
yeah.
in a different light than if they
Mhm,
were
mhm.
directly,
Yeah,
maybe, for example, the Black Panthers, sometimes they're not looked at as
right,
great because they did retaliate. And
right,
so
right.
I think when you show some people may see this as cowardly or weakness, but
Mhm.
I think takes a degree of strength
Yeah,
to
yeah,
not
yeah.
to not, you know, act based off your emotions, to not
Mhm,
retaliate when someone
mhm.
does something to you, because
Yeah,
as we mentioned, it's natural to feel this way.
yeah,
And as we've said before, the Bible will work on the things.
yeah,
There's something for everyone in here. You keep reading, you'll find something for everyone.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's very strong not to
Yeah,
retaliate.
that is so true. Because you hear this old adage. I hear it even growing up as a kid, and I think I heard my grandmother said it. It says more than one way to skin a cat. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
There's more than one way to approach certain situations, especially tough situations. There's more than one way. I think about even you mentioned Dr. Martin Luther King. I even think about Mahatma Gandhi
Hmm.
in India. You know what I'm saying? And then how all that evil things that was being done in his country, and then he's like short guy, 5 foot something, but he brought the other country that was portraying all this evil things on his country. He brought that other country to their knees,
He
and he
did.
never threw a blow. You know what I'm saying? He never threw a punch back at them. But all he did, he approached it from a different perspective, and now he go down in history as someone who's well respected and stuff like that. He brought peace to the situation, and the same thing with Dr. Martin Luther King. And Dr. Martin Luther King learned some of the lessons that he did, because he was like a pioneer before Dr. Martin Luther King. He did some of the things that Martin Luther King applied in his situation. You know what I'm saying? So it's just more than one way to do it. There's more than one way to handle a situation. Some people don't think through it. Some people just react. You know what I'm saying? And Jesus don't want us to react. He wants us to think before we react. You know what I'm saying? Um, a lot of prisons would be empty or lessen if people had think through certain
Hmm.
situations before they done. If they had thought about the process before they pull that trigger, thought about seeing the picture of them standing before a judge, and the judge sentencing them to life in prison or sentencing them to death, by lethal injection. But you pull a trigger and you didn't think about all the stuff that could happen, or you did this, or you put your hands on somebody, and then but Jesus, what is he doing? He's addressing at the heart level. He said, start here. He said, turn the other cheek. Like I said, we all know it's hard, but it's still the truth.
It is.
We still got to do what he says. We still got to do what he says. But at least at the end of the day, we're not we. You turn the other cheek. There's a greater chance the other guy probably would look at you crazy.
He
You know what I'm
will.
saying?
He
He'd be
will.
like, "What are you doing?"
He
You know what I'm
will.
saying? I just slapped you on one side, and he
Yeah.
said, "Oh, hit me on the other side." Go ahead, hit me on the other side. He'll probably think you crazy. He'd be like, "Wait a minute, this guy crazy." You know what? He probably, I don't know, but I'm not gonna try it, but he'd probably say, you know what, forget this, man. This not even a fight worth
Right.
fighting. Because you don't even want to fight back.
No,
You
you
know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
exactly.
So what do you think? What's your thought?
No, I agree with that, and I think it comes down to the strength. It's something you have to find through Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Because for many people, like we've mentioned, it's natural to want to. If someone's trying to do something to you, it's natural to
Right,
want
right.
to attack and
A
retaliate
natural.
back. But I think once you master this, like you said, people will look at you in a completely different
Mm-hmm.
way. And
Mm-hmm.
going back to the civil rights movement we were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and even in India, the movements
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
it was for many people it was hard to look at these
Mm-hmm.
people are just protesting and they're getting not doing anything, not fighting back,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting hosed down or they're getting beat. They're
Yeah.
getting,
Yeah.
and so I think it's a way for us to win other people.
Yeah.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
we often say that,
Mm-hmm.
Christians do certain things that make people look at Christians in a negative light.
Yeah.
But conversely, on the other side, you can see that there are many things that we can do as Christians
Yeah.
to bring glory to God and to
Mm-hmm.
show, who we are and the transformation that's occurred
Right.
within our
Right.
life.
Right. Wow. That's great. That's awesome. So let's go down to the second portion. And it says, as for the one who wants to sue you, he talks about suing and taking his shirt. We're still talking about our reaction. This is a touchy subject because I know in the if you think about it, in the Jewish community, this doesn't take place among the Jewish community where they're suing each other and stuff like
Right.
that and
Right.
taking each other's stuff and want this, and they reconcile. As a matter of fact, what they do, they share their stuff with each other because if you have a brother and you have a nephew, a brother, the uncle, because he's like, you're my brother, and I have a son, you have a son. My son, he's in a situation because I'm able to help him. Your son may not be in that situation where you're able to help him, you know, get to another level in his life. But you have a brother. You have a brother that can help your son. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's
Right.
like that community connection. You know what I'm saying? Whether I'm like, oh no, I got mine, you go get yours. I see you struggling and suffering, and I'm not willing to, you know what I'm saying, step in and help you out. And that's how the Jewish community live. They take care of each other. They help each other. And we as Christians, we should have that same attitude.
You should.
That's one of the things I like in our church with our Pastor Carlos, right? And Dr. Yvonne, right? Is that they have a communal perspective on the church, making sure that we're taking care of each other, starting inside the house first, dealing with the house before we go outside into the community. Because you can help the community, but if you're not helping anyone on the inside, then you're not going to be able to help the community like how you really want to help. You know what I'm saying? But that's that community mindset, and that's what Jesus he addressed the community. He said, "Look, don't go around suing each other. If y'all call yourself brothers and each other, brothers and sisters, work things out. Keep things out of the media. It's like the football player.
Right.
He had some issues in the locker room with the
Mhm.
coaches and the players, and what he do? He go in the front of the mic and start talking in front of the media and start talking about it like he gonna solve the problem. That's not gonna solve the problem.
It's not.
What's that's gonna probably do? Have you ship out of there. You're gonna probably be either sitting on another team that you don't want to be on,
Mhm.
or you sit on the couch watching your team play, win the Super Bowl problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't solve problems. You keep it on the micro level and you work things out and you get things better. And that's what Jesus is talking about. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think these actions that Jesus is talking about in these last few verses, going the extra mile
Mm-hmm.
or giving to those, if someone asks you something, giving to them. I think the main idea here is that as Christians, we're supposed to be transformed. Our actions are supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
different from the actions of people that aren't saved and that aren't followers of Jesus. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
if you're say you're a Christian, but you're acting the same way you were before you were saved. In every
Mm-hmm.
regard, there's some disconnect here. And I think Jesus is trying to say that there's a bigger picture here. We have people that we want to witness to, we want to be an example for, and we can do that through our actions.
Yeah.
And so when you do these things, people will probably look at you like you're crazy,
Yeah.
but that's you witnessing and testifying
Yeah.
through those actions. And so when
Yeah.
they see you, as you mentioned with the pastor and first lady, you see
Yeah.
actions that they've done.
Yeah.
You're like, wow,
Yeah.
they're doing this.
Yeah.
Let me learn more about them. Let me try to
Yeah.
get closer to them. Let's see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't realize it, but the
Mhm.
impact you can have on people just by
Mhm.
embodying some of these things that Jesus talked about, or embodying the things Jesus talked about.
Yeah.
They may not directly say it to you, but you
Yeah.
can have such a great impact on people when you do these things.
That's true. That's true. Speaking of impact, I'm glad you said that. Speaking of impact, because my same situation that I was facing in Miami, I brought that same situation, the difficulty, whatever I was going through in Miami, I brought that same situation to Raleigh, North Carolina, right?
Right.
The difference is that I ran into some people
Mhm.
that had this communal approach to it. How can we help you get from where you at to where you need to be? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That communal started with my dad and my stepmom in Miami, um, to the point where I had to live with them for a period of time. They they approach it from a communal point of view. Okay, how can we help our son get back to where he's stronger on his feet? So I got to a point where I can now, where I went from feeble legs to legs with strength, where I can actually move, but I still had some of the issues I was still dealing with, but at least I could stand up under them. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
And then God allowed me to come in a situation where I met people like Pastor Wright and Dr. Yvonne Wright, that couple, and they see my situation and they did something about it. They didn't actually did it for me, but they showed me how to get through it. You know what I'm saying? By looking at the word and allowing the word to manifest itself through me so I can tackle the problems or the setbacks that I was experiencing. You see that community effect that Jesus is talking about. They didn't just sit there and wait for me to get it right. They actually got in there with me and helped me make some corrections, helped me make some things to get some things where now I can actually, not only stand up with the weight, but start to shed some of this weight. You see what I'm saying?
That's
Some of the
powerful.
stuff that's holding you back, I was able to shed that. Why? Because they came in and they saw a situation and they did something about it. You know what I'm saying? So we, and like Jesus talked about, it says giving to one another, um, giving to people who ask and stuff and helping each other and don't turn away. I look at with Pastor and First Lady, Pastor Wright and Dr. Yvonne Wright, they are such givers that when you're around them, you can't help but become a giver. You see what I'm saying? Givers produce givers and I was like, wow, because they poured into me, and then they begin to pour into me, I begin to do the same thing, pour out to others. You see what I'm saying? And that's the community that you will create through if you take Jesus' words and you bring in it to living and active. What do you think?
That's really powerful, and I think this like concept of our actions and the power of our actions and the power of community. And so imagine you have a community acting, the way that Jesus has
Mm-hmm.
described that we should act, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the impact that we can have on other people. And we mentioned this in our
Mm-hmm.
last episode, but as you begin to learn more and more about Christ, you realize it's not about me, or it is about you. Like you want to get to heaven personally,
Yeah.
but we will want other people to experience
Right.
what we've experienced.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
I think we can do this through our actions. And
Yeah.
something that sticks with me is, just that example that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
imagine if the pastor and first lady weren't showing these actions, they weren't that beacon
Mm.
through their actions, through their
Mm-hmm.
following of God for
Mm-hmm.
you to turn to. where would your life be?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And so they're probably
Where would I be?
exactly.
That's a good question.
And that's one example, but there are probably instances in our lives or our actions affect people or can affect people in similar ways. And so, I never want to miss a time where I can, and it's not about being perfect. It's not about trying to live a perfect life, but knowing that your actions can have so many good consequences on people that you don't even know. It doesn't have to be a thing you do to that person.
Yeah.
But it can be something that you do, in the name of God or because of how Jesus described how we should live and how that can impact someone tremendously.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's very good because it's. I'm telling you, man. You can pull the strain off. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking about another thing I was thinking about, Brother Jared, is when the Bible said, "Go the extra mile." If you said go one, they ask for one, you go two. I think about some people, even Christians in particular, might be on jobs that they might have a boss, a supervisor that they don't like. And one thing I learned, and I will continue to learn to get through the way to combat that is doing more than what they ask for. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because because of their attitude, naturally you want to resist and say, instead of doing what they ask, if they ask for two, you do one, or if they ask for one, you did a half because you don't like them. Well, I don't like them anyway. You see what I'm saying? And if you approach it like that, then they're gonna actually the situation is gonna get worse if you have a boss like that. But if you have a boss that's like that, then if you say, well, okay, my boss is I really don't typically I don't like them or him or her that well, and they asked me to go 1 mile or do all of this work. They want me to stay over tonight, and I got to go home. They want me to stay over for an hour, and then you go back and tell your boss, so you know what, boss, Miss Boss, Mr. Boss, I'm gonna go ahead and stay over 2 hours. You want me to stay? You asked for 1 hour, but I could give you two. And I guarantee most of the time, because I was a boss before, and most of the time I would the boss would be like, well, you know what? This time, next time, when we ask for extra time, I'm gonna ask somebody else because you ready put in your time. You know what I'm saying? It'll get better. It'll get better. You can really impress someone that you know. King Nebuchadnezzar was impressed.
He was.
You know what I'm saying? He was impressed. And he was a tough guy to please. But Daniel impressed him. The Hebrew boys impressed him. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't have to be you don't have to blame your situation for your situation to say, well, the reason why I'm like this because the situation I'm in. I have people say, man, they say, well, before I got this job, I didn't cuss before. But since I got this job, I started cussing. You know what I'm saying? Why did you start cussing? Well, because everybody around me is cussing. Yeah. You did that because everybody around you started cussing. That's why you became a cuss. And you're a Christian. And if you look around you, they're not even a Christian. And they don't have a chance because you went into the pool with them. Yep. You went to the cussing pool with them. So nobody gonna believe anything you have to say. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's the effect. If you can change the situation, change the situation. Don't look at it and say, well, it's this bad because that's the way it is. That's a card. That's the hand I was dealt. Yeah, it might have been a hand you were dealt, but you still could get through that. You may not be able to get 3 books out of it. You might be able to get 1 or 2 books out of it. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about the spade game, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Before we close, give me some of your thoughts on that.
No, I think that's very powerful, and I think as you read all these things, and someone can do something to you, and you could not retaliate. You may think that they've got one up on you, but just knowing that if you are applying not just the scriptures here, but the scriptures throughout the Bible,
okay,
God's going to take care of you. He's going to make sure that everything's all right with you.
Yeah.
And so, don't worry. We've talked about this in Matthew 6. Not to worry.
Right.
God will take care of us. And
right.
He supplies word. And I'm making it sound simple. I know it's a lot harder than
Right.
what I'm saying, but when it comes down to it, it's obedience is simple,
Yeah.
and it's just a
Yeah.
choice that you have to make, and it can be
Mhm.
hard, but you have to do hard things sometimes.
That's right. You got
Sometimes.
to do the hard things, and that's one thing with the Bible. The Bible approaches with the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Yep, all of them.
and we got to take it all in,
There you go.
and we got to let the good, let the good tear us up,
Mhm.
let the bad challenge us, and the ugly we just say, I'm still gonna take it on. I mean, hey, this is the way it is, but God is still Lord.
Yes.
He's still in charge, and Jesus is still Lord. So it don't matter what my situation, because people say, "Well, this day is bad. This is a bad day." Well, not really, because you're still breathing. That means you still got a chance. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for hanging with us and allowing us to talk through some incredible passages in the book of Matthew chapter 5. We have one more part to cover. We're in part 9. We have part 10, which will come up next week. And that'll close out Matthew chapter 5. And then we'll be going into chapter 6 after that. And we have a lot more to cover in chapter 6. And when we get to 7, and that'll be our last chapter. So we're going to be in this for a couple of weeks, for quite some time. So if you're really enjoying our page, our podcast, just continue to drop some comments in there, and continue to share the page with your friends and family. And like I said, use these words, to affect and infect your community. Like this one we're just talking about is about an impact, how you impact the community and how the community impacts you. You know what I'm saying? You say, well, okay, well, whatever hand that you're dealt with, you still can get through it. Whatever on your job, you still could get through it. It doesn't matter. Your boss, you're having a challenge with your boss, your supervisor. I promise you, do more than they're asking for. I promise you, it'll get better. I've seen it in my own life. It will get better. God will continue to bless you. Say, I know we're having fun with the turn the other cheek, whether you turn his or yours, say, but to be clear, the Bible didn't say turn his or hers. It said turn yours. But if that's a challenge for you, don't put yourself in that situation. Don't let nobody else put you in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Because when you start getting and turning his cheek and her cheek, your cheek and their cheek and all that stuff, then the judge and the police, all of them get involved. Especially, it was little kids, the parents involved with that. But when you get into adults and all that stuff, it's no more parents. It's,
No more.
The police and the judge. And it's crazy. But Jesus, he gives us the word to avoid all of that, to really love and help and respect everybody. So family, let's grow together. Let's become more and more like Jesus together. No matter where you're at, what situation your life is in, it doesn't matter. You still can get through it because of the word of God. So thank you so much. This is the FIT Podcast, Freedom and Truth, because we believe in telling you exactly what the word says. We're not sugarcoating it. We're not changing it, because Jesus didn't change. He came to fulfill it. So thank you for sticking and stay with us. And I'll see you on the next podcast.